Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to the Long Term Podcast. I'm your host, Advin Villa. Today, we have an engineering student at the University of Alberta who also works at the Primary Reserves, Mathieu Meurer. We will discuss the Primary Reserves, engineering, and biking. Everyone, welcome. Bro. Welcome back, everyone. This is Mathieu Meurer.
Yeah, Meurer. That's good enough.
Meurer, that's how you pronounce it.
It's a hard name because it's German, but
How
it's
do you pronounce it
anglicized.
properly?
Oh man, I can't even pronounce it in German.
Yeah.
I just say Meurer, and I
Meurer?
go, yeah. Oh yeah.
Meurer. Okay. But yeah, bro, welcome.
Thank you.
Did you have a good time last night? High school reunion?
Oh, it was great. Thank you for putting that on. It was awesome.
Yeah, dude, just crazy that how many people turned out. I'm so happy. Everything just finally came into place.
Yeah. No, it was fantastic. I think the venue and the DJ and the drinks and it was perfect. And then seeing everyone that you haven't seen in so long, and then maybe some friends that you still hang out with, and then you get to like all come together and just have a good time again. Oh, it's great.
I think the connections that we make, hey, that's all really what it's all about. I mean, when you see those people we haven't seen in a while, we reconnect, and then they've done all these things after 5 years. You can, there's so much that happens.
Oh yeah.
So much, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
and growing too. Like people like change so much after 5 years.
Man. Like,
Not just like physically. Like, I mean, like not just like growing,
yeah.
like
Yeah, I
actually
know.
like developing themselves.
yeah, like some of them have families, some of them are getting married.
Yeah,
Different
I was talking to
careers,
Ethan the other
degrees.
day, and he's got a 9-year-old girl or 9-month-old girl.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah,
like, holy crap.
Yeah, I was like, how does that?
9 years now?
Yeah,
9-month-old.
I think we were talking, and it's like, I can't even take care of myself.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
imagine
Like, I
having
would
a
not
kid.
trust myself around a little baby.
Yeah, I just forget.
Call child support services, man.
Yeah, bro. I am so excited, and yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. I'm a fourth year mechanical engineering student at the University of Alberta. I work part-time for the Primary Reserves for the Canadian Army. I'm an armored officer is like my job title. What I do day to day in my regiment is I'm a troop leader, and I organize training and exercises within the troop level, and to make my squadron commander's intent, come to life. So my squadron commanders come down, he'll say, I want this done. This is gonna be our training year, what we want to kind of focus on. And then I'll break that down, and I'll kind of disseminate it, figure out how we're going to work everything in with my troop.
Kind of like
And
a
then-
manager.
Yeah. That's basically, I'm a glorified manager.
Cool. That's awesome, man. So for the people that don't know what the Primary Reserves are, can you describe what it's all about?
Yeah, sure. So the Canadian Army is made up of a few components. You've got the regular force. Those are like their career army guys. That's like what they do. They sign contracts and they
The
work.
regular what? Sorry.
Regular force.
Okay.
So that's what that is. That's like when you think of army, that's those guys. And then you've got the primary reserve, which is what I'm in. When you join, you're a Class A reservist. It's your contract that you sign. It's pretty much just like you're giving as much time in as you can. What you get out is how much you put into it. Your minimal requirements is like training at least once a month. But I'm gonna be honest, if you only train once a month, like you're not getting much out of it. We train every Wednesday, and then we go out on field training exercises 1 weekend a month, or at least 1 weekend a month, sometimes more. So the reserves are the intent is to supplement the regular force when they go on deployment. So sometimes they won't be able to fill all of their squadrons or companies, and they'll ask the reserves to send some guys to fill their nominal
Operations.
role.
So like, does this happen often where they can't fill in many people? Did you guys have to go?
Yes and no. I'm sure they totally could if they wanted to, but the way the Canadian Army is kind of structured is to rely a bit on the reserves. It's good because you get some people with different perspectives in the Army. Because the reservists are civilians who work for the Army part-time on the side. So rather than just being bred and born by the Army and that's your life, you've got these people who are like finance managers, maybe like foremen at construction sites, like hear that, like this, that, and the other. Like there's a journeyman who's like a troop warrant in my squadron. It's like he knows the ins and out of CNC machining. Like you've got people who bring so many different perspectives and experiences from their civilian life into the army. So when you bring them and implement them into the regular force, when they go on deployment, they can bring some pretty undoctrinal solutions to any problem. So it's just a good different perspective to have. And I think that's kind of why it's planned out that way. So anyways, that's the primary reserve. And then under that, you got the supplementary reserve. And that's, you're kind of sitting on the side. You don't want to lose your qualifications within the army, but you really don't have any duties to do anything. So you're just kind of sitting there. I mean, if a war happens and they're calling up the reserves, the supplementary reserves will also get called up. But otherwise, the supplementary reserves, it's just you're kind of done. You're taking a break from the army, but you don't want to release yet.
So there's less commitment in the supplementary reserves. And you had mentioned that in the primary reserves, you get all these people, or also in the supplementary reserves too, you get all these people with different backgrounds, since it's not their full time, they have their full times being a doctor, or I'm sure there's probably some.
Oh yeah, there are. Yeah. There's some people who are not like, so generally in the army, you have to have a degree to be an officer, or you have to be working towards a degree. But I know guys with like master's degrees who are like corporals or like master corporals. Yeah. But they love the job. So they don't want to be an officer. They love doing the actual work. So it's like, yeah, you're in this high level fucking job, civilian side, but you want to get in the dirt in the army once in a while and like do the hard stuff. And it's like, that's really cool.
What has it taught you about the different connections that you've made? Like, have you derived kind of the understanding of like the talking to people, like since you have all these people of different backgrounds, say you have nurses, teachers, I'm sure police officers.
Yep.
Like has it helped you sharpen your ability to understand and communicate with all types of people?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's a little different to deal with, right? So you got to learn the ins and outs of each and every person that you're working with. And learning how to figure people out quickly is a skill I've kind of started to work on. I'm not gonna say I mastered it, but when you see people, once a week and you're working with them, you learn how to develop relationships, working relationships on how to get stuff done, and yeah, so that's one of the key skills it's taught me.
And what kind of tasks do you guys undergo on the weekly basis? On
the weekly basis, I mean, it could be anything from like vehicle management, refreshing skills, going through like some PowerPoints on lessons. Could be going to like we call it a SAT range. It's a small arms trainer. It's basically you go into this room. It's got like compressed air rifles, and it actually tracks where you're aiming on the screen, so you can practice your marksmanship without actually having to go through the planning and paperwork of going to the range. So we can practice our marksmanship kind of like on the fly, stuff like that. We can practice like on sandbox tables with our like troop movements or whatever. So our crew commander's appreciation. These are just, like you can practice you just want to maintain your skills weekly. That's all it is you come in, you refresh your skills every week to make sure you're not losing anything. I mean, we'll also work on our dress and deportment and our drill skills. So in the weeks leading up to Remembrance Day, because we'll go parading on Remembrance Day and I have a whole ceremony and everything, right? So in the few weeks leading up, we'll practice our drill, make sure everyone's drill is on point. We're not sloppy. No one's like screwing up the movements or anything. So we'll practice actually going through the exact scheme of maneuver of getting onto the parade square and then going through the whole process of the Remembrance Day parade. I mean, we speed it up. We don't wait for the whole minute of silence, the national anthem, God Save the King, all that stuff. We just go, okay, this is what's happening. All right, God Save the King, and then we'll do this. And then the national anthem, and then we'll do this, right? So we'll go through the whole, we're not, when we walk onto the parade square on Remembrance Day, we're not just doing it from the top of our heads. Like we've practiced it time and time before.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Matthew Yannick, actually, him and I were talking about like the army and how it's so structured, and how the intent of the organizations that are of military operations, they want to kill the self, like since they don't want you to think about yourself. Like sure, there's individuality and mindset and discipline, but from what you tell me, like all these operations, you guys practice it over and over until you master it, and it's really repetitive, right? But it's that discipline, it's that mindset. Now, how has discipline played a role in this entire structure? Like, because of course you need to have, you need to be a certain type of person to want to be in the reserves, because I'm sure it's not just like you need to be disciplined, and you need to be able to make your own bed, you need to be able to hit the weights, and you need to be able to carry those heavy backpacks they've got and listen to orders. Now, what type of person gets attracted to the primary reserves?
Oh, a lot of different types of people, I'll say.
But I'm sure there's like a commonality though, because I'm sure you got the nurse, you got the doctors, the police officers, teachers, but I'm sure there's some sort of underlying quality that draws them to this. Now, is it like the structure? Is it the discipline? Is it just like the orders? Or is it just like the power? What is that?
I'd say it's just the experience. Is one of the big umbrella reasons of why people would join. And it could be for a multitude of reasons. A lot of people join because, like their family was in the military, and, they kind of, it's something they want to do because it's been done in their family, or some people they just want to do it because you get to touch the guns that you can't have civilian side, right? Like, I mean,
it'd be cool.
You got to do a lot of cool stuff. I mean, you can throw grenades, like automatic machine guns. Like, I mean, it's just stuff you'll never get to do civilian side in Canada, at least.
When you're a kid, right? I remember having like toy guns and like going around and acting like I'm in the army and just go.
Yeah.
And now that when you're an adult, I feel like I should. That's something I'd want to do one day. Just like going around.
You totally should.
Yeah, and just throw grenades and actually have them being real this time, and just like being able to shoot a gun.
Oh yeah, I love hearing things go boom.
How does that feel?
Oh, like, it's just awesome. It's a type of adrenaline you just don't get otherwise. Oh yeah,
big bang, right?
Oh yeah, you've got like people yelling around. You've got like gunshots going around you, and it's just like you're like hyper focused on what's going on. Yeah,
oh, man, I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about that. Like when you're in the zone. Like I was just watching my friend Jacob. He's just like in the gun range, just like the way he was like changing the clips. He had the Instagram video of it, and I was like looking at that. I'm like, man, that gets me amped up, right? I'm sure like the guys that get drawn to that too, like really, really just want that lifestyle too, right? Like really adrenaline induced, just like firing away. And then there's a real thing too, right? Where they actually have to go. But that's another thing. Do you have any experience with that?
Oh, like, I mean, not too much. I haven't been in the army that long, and there's stuff I haven't yet done and stuff I have yet to do. Yeah, like I don't know. I can't really say like I've got that much experience with that.
Yeah. But still, you have more experience than the average.
Oh yeah,
you're not a civilian.
Like I've they teach you how to be fast with weapons, and they teach you, that's something they've taught me, right? That's on your basic, is how to be quick with a C7, which is basically the American M4. Everyone's pretty familiar with. We call it a C7. Yeah,
man, that's probably built to your confidence, eh? Like being able to like say that, hey, I'm I'm in the army, pretty much, right? Reserves.
It's cool. Like it's a family that like no other. But everyone cares about people succeeding, right? So if you see like your colleague succeeding at work where you think you should have gotten like that position or promotion, you might get a little jealous. In the army, it's like, no, that's awesome, because I like that guy. He's my friend. And the fact that he's now going to be in a senior position and leading, that gives me so much more confidence, because I know that like this guy or girl that I respect so much is going to be actually leading things now, and maybe even leading me. It's a really fond feeling you get for other people that I generally don't get otherwise. Like I like seeing people succeed, but when it's your close friends that you've worked with for like, I've only been in 2 years, but even for 2 years, you gain like a close relationship with your working colleagues, right?
And but it's like that's a hard thing to facilitate even in one's self, because I think naturally we just become jealous because, oh, why them, why not me, right? But being able to override that and go, I'm happy for them and I want to see them succeed, and kind of that self talk of like just telling yourself and just believing in them and them believing in you is so hard to find these days. And is that the culture in there where everybody just wants to support each other?
I mean, you've got a few bad eggs, but they really don't speak for the entire army. Like there's obviously a few personalities that can get jealous, but one of the key ethical principles of the Canadian Armed Forces is Canada before self. And when you apply that, if someone who is deserving of that position gets put into it and they do a good job, you have no reason not to be happy for them, because that is accomplishing what the army is setting out to do. They're making the position and all their subordinates therefore better. So you can be nothing but happy for them because they're doing a great job.
They've worked for it.
They
right?
worked for it. They
you gotta
deserve it.
respect the guy
And
who's
they're doing
put in
Canada
the
proud.
hours. I mean, if the guy didn't put in any hours and just slacked off and just kind of the nepotism, which doesn't happen.
Yeah,
I
people
assume?
see that and you won't get that position or appointment.
It's the beautiful thing about the army, in which I don't have any experience, but I'm very interested in the subject, and I love David Goggins and I love the Jocko Willink. They're in the Navy, but like kind of same idea of like discipline and brotherhood and just like guns and just the masculine side of things. Is when you go in it, you had mentioned that you have all these people with their different jobs, like being a professor, being an electrician, being like a teacher, just being a student. You're there, and sure, you're different ages, but you're like in the same role. And the way you rank up, it's like putting in the work. Or your dad can't just like send in a letter and be like, "Yo, my boy Jimmy, I was in the army, so get him a better rank."
Yeah, like a good
it's like, no, you have to like
letter.
start as a little peasant, getting ordered around, getting bitched around, and then you have to work your way up. Whether it's about your conversation skills, whether it's about your discipline, whether it's about the way you deal with conflict. Like, how do you deal with it? Are you going to be a little bitch, right? Are you going to be a little like softy, or are you going to be the man to find the solution? Are you going
Or woman.
Yeah, or woman.
Yeah.
Are you going to be the person that does the job, right? And hopefully that's like not saying the word be like, that's not derogatory. I don't mean that in like a way where it's like, I'm just saying like a better word would be like fleeing away from your problems, acting like the victim, right? Because when you're there,
it's the ability to take it on the chin and move forward with the job.
Yeah.
Because like you can take things personally, but that does nobody any good. I mean, you're getting yelled at. It's probably because you screwed up. So you know,
own up to
accept
it,
it, deal with it, and find a solution. Like just move forward.
Yeah. I want to describe more about your role in the primary reserves and kind of what's inspired you to join.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a two-parter. I'll start with the second. What inspired me to join? In high school, when I was looking at post-secondary options, one of the programs I was looking at was offered by the Royal Military College, and they offered a aerospace engineering program, and it's all paid for, and they actually pay you a salary while you go to school, and then all you have to do is owe them 8 years after your 4-year degree. The way I looked at it was that's 8 guaranteed years of employment. So I mean, so what? Right? You get an engineering degree out of it, and you get 8 years of employment. I mean, bummer, right? Like, oh no, I have to work for the army for 8 years and get paid the whole time. Like, bummer. So I went through the recruitment process and you know, did my physical, my physical examination for like both like health and fitness. And then you go through like the hearing test, the eye test, all that. And they're like, you're good to go. I did my interview with the recruiter, and she was like, yeah, this is a perfect fit for you. Now we just got to hear back from the Royal Military College. and I ended up getting a rejection letter.
Oh
And they were
man.
like, "Yeah, sorry, your grades didn't cut it." And that was a huge bummer, but I still got into the U of A for engineering. So that's where I'm at now, and I'm still working through that. And I was talking with the recruiters, and they're like, you can still join the reserves and get experience through that while you're going to university. And then once you're done, if you still feel like it, you can transfer into the regular force and continue that way. So it's just a second route with it's perfectly valid too. So I joined under the reserve entry scheme for officers. So it's so that it's I can be an officer so long as I am pursuing with the intent to complete a degree.
That's awesome, man. And that's a win-win. And you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, because if you don't want to be an engineer, you could just take that route, or vice
Yeah.
versa
Yeah.
too. Hey, uh, how do you balance the demands of your engineering studies with your responsibilities in the primary reserves?
Yeah, that one that one is a really great question, and it's something I did struggle with for a bit. Um you have to learn when to take a step back from the army. I love the reserves. I love the work I do and the people I work with, and it's hard actually to like call in and be like, "Listen, I need to take this week off. I've just got this assignment to do." When I first joined, I was like, I need to come in, I need to prove myself. Like, I want people to like me because I love this job. Like, I was stoked to be there. And I didn't take any time off. And my grades suffered a little bit because of it. I failed a couple of courses, and I'm like, you know what? I'm only in here under the RESO entry scheme because I'm pursuing a degree. So I can't let my grades struggle because I'm spending this much time and effort into the army. So last last year before the fall term, I went and talked to my OC. I'm like, listen, like I'm nearing the end of my degree and I don't want to push it back any further than I have to with failing classes. So here's the deal. I still want a troop lead. I will put in the effort, but if I have to take time off, I'm going to take time off to focus on succeeding in my courses. And I'll know ahead of time because I know the class schedule and I can kind of predict when things are going to get more hefty. And I've got a perfectly capable and smart set of individuals who are in my team that I can rely on to step up for me every week or every other week when I can't come in. So being away isn't the end of the world so long as I make sure people are able to kind of take the step up and fill in for me when I'm gone.
You have all these responsibilities and you gauge it based on past experience with what worked out and what didn't. And it's kind of that trial and error. Hey, where, okay, it's just 5 classes for Eng, 6 classes maybe. And am I going to be able to make it on the Sunday, the weekly routine? Am I going to be able to accomplish my tasks? And if that's not the case, if you're unable to, you delegate those tasks to other people that you trust. Right, you do what's best for you, and while it's never gonna be perfect, right? You can only just try your best at the end of the day. And man, that's 2 full-time jobs, bro. Like, that's
I
a
love
lot.
it though. It's amazing. And like you said, like delegating, that's a key word. I'm actually amazed you actually brought that up because that's fantastic. That is the army word. Delegating tasks to individuals you know will and can complete them is a key part of the army. Knowing your guys and what they're capable of, and knowing who you can delegate what tasks to make sure it gets done is the key thing. You can't do everything as a person, especially as a leader. You know what needs to be done. You can't do it all yourself. So you need to find out who you can delegate it to make sure it gets done. And sometimes you got to trust people who maybe you don't think can do it per se, but are like almost there. So you delegate it to them and be like, hey, if you run into trouble, reach out to this person because they can do it really well. And then that you can you can foster growth within some of your guys.
It is that trust, bro, right? Like if you delegate a task to someone to show up at this time and they don't, it's like, okay, first time they don't, sure, whatever. Second time, it's like, okay, third time, and then it seems to be a pattern. And next thing you know, you'll question their judgment and you'll question the tasks that you delegate to them. You don't want a person that doesn't show up on time, right? And if you tell them it needs to be done at this time, at this date, and they don't do it, and it's just, okay, maybe it's just a mishap, and you do it again, and then it's like, you lose that trust. It's so hard to build that again. But then the inverse is when you delegate someone a task and they do it continuously without any mistake. And if they make a mistake, which everybody does, they take accountability, they found a solution, and they make it up to you. Right? That's like the types of people that you want
Oh
on
yeah,
your
you
side.
cherish
Hey,
them.
because
Yeah.
even I see that with myself too. Like if I say one thing and I don't do it, then there's that disconnect with I don't even trust myself. Like if I'm gonna say I'm gonna work out and I don't work out, then it's like, okay, I'm making these things and am I even trust in myself, right? And then when a person asks me to do something and I don't do it, it's like then over time it's just like chipping away at that foundation. And it's great that the primary reserves, I'm sure the people that get gravitated towards this organization, they're usually the people that do get it done. Right?
Yeah, I mean, and certainly they all strive to. And for one reason or another, like, there's multitudes of reason why some people have, like, struggle with it, but it's about finding a work family life balance. And you know, there are a few cases where I've had to sit some people down and have a meeting with them and be like, listen, you can't keep doing this. I need you to get this done on time. And it's just you work out a solution with them, and it's like you don't take it personally, and you never dish it out personally. You're laying out the facts of this is what I asked you to do. You didn't do it on time. Why? And you figure out the root cause, and it's not because they didn't feel like it. It never is. They never just fucked it off. The types of people that fuck it off never make it past basic training. I'll tell you that much. They fail off that course, and they either have a change of heart or they leave the army. But it's really important sitting down with your guys and understanding their home life situation and understanding what their needs are too, and finding a compromise on how you can work together and how you can maximize your results. Being able to get that point across that you're not upset with them, you just need better results, it's kind of like an eye opener, and it shows you the humanity on the other side too of this is just work. Like I don't hate you as a person. I'm just disappointed you didn't get it done. And you just bring it across and say, listen, it's okay for you to tell me no. You just need to find someone else to do it. You got to be like, no, I can't do this. Let me find someone else to do it for you. Because I've already delegated a bunch of tasks to other people. So I don't find it fair for myself to give someone another task. I think it's perfectly fair for that person to go find someone else and be like, listen, I can't do this. I need you to take this from me and do it for me this time, and I'll get you sometime later, right? That's up to them to figure out. We're all grown ups, right? Like I don't need to babysit and manage, like micromanage everything. I can give people tasks and have complete confidence that they're gonna sort it out amongst themselves and get it done.
To be a great leader, you need to be able to approach the job holistically, right? Where it's sure you want this task to be completed, and when the person that you asked didn't complete that job, okay, what's the root cause of it? And you had mentioned that usually it's never just I didn't feel like it. Usually it's something deeper, and to be able to press and empathize, which it seems you've been very good at being a person that your guys can go up to and be able to augment their ability to get stuff done. What has been the ascent like to reach that role? Because I had mentioned that you all start off at a certain role and it's not easy at the start, but it seemed that after 2 years of being in there, you have ascended quite, you've done a lot of work for yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't start out as a private. I joined as an officer. So I joined as an officer cadet, and I was kind of forced into that leadership role. Joining and not knowing anything, but being considered a leader is just an odd feeling because you don't know what's going on, but you know that you're supposed to be able to lead people. As an officer cadet, not much is expected from you because everyone knows you don't know anything. But moving up and getting more experience, you learn how to work with that. And once I got assigned the position of 2 troop leader within my squadron, and actually having a troop to take care of and to manage, you learn really quickly how to pull from other people's strengths and their experience and knowledge to actually get them to work efficiently. Yeah, I probably am the least experienced person in my entire troop, but it's not necessarily my job to be the most experienced person. It's my job to be able to lead them and to manage them.
Bro, I relate to that. See, I'm the same way. I'm not really good at stuff, but I can delegate and I can communicate and I can optimize people by assigning different tasks at times that are optimal for their skills and their strengths and their weaknesses. And we need more people like that. Right? Well, it's not the smartest people that are the leaders. It's not the people that are so good at this one thing. It's the person that can bring two people together and give them a project, and then have another group give them a project. And then if there's a debacle that unfolds, you step in there, you find a solution, and maybe you mediate, maybe you give them some time to think it off, make them understand, instill some empathy, instill some authenticity, and like just develop relationships and go deeper and connect them further, right? Because one thing happens, okay, are you going to make it worse? Are you going to go on their side and talk more smack? Or are you going to be able to focus on the objective while also ensuring that they are content and they are able to communicate their thoughts and feelings and not be repressed? Because that repression could lead to certain things that could deepen the resentment.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like you never want to rule by fear. You want people to respect you and buy into your plan. So, I mean, if you're constantly shit talking them, they're not going to like you and they're not going to want to carry out your plan. But if they like you and they know that you're, smart, maybe not experienced, but smart and well put together, and you've consulted your experienced like senior non-commissioned members, they know that you're not an idiot and that you care about them and that you want the best outcome. And if they like you, then they're going to make it happen because they go, oh yeah, that's the plan. I like him. Whatever, let's do it. Fuck it. Like, but if they hate you, they're not gonna, if like, it's not all wartime, but like, let's say, you're in war, they're not going to want to put their lives on a line for a plan from a guy they hate. Right. If it's a guy they love and it's it's a risky plan, but they know that he's not doing it because he hates them or whatever. It's like, that's what needs to happen. And, so be it.
Sure. Like, are you really going to jump on a grenade for someone that's been talking smack about you and not making you feel like a person? Like, of course not. And like having a culture like that, where people are just concerned about themselves rather than other people, you're not going to succeed. Like, you're going to fail miserably. What skills or experiences from your time in the primary reserves have been of most beneficial in your academic and personal life?
Time management is a big one. Learning and being okay with not completing something to 100%. So one of the things I struggle with is being able to mostly finish something and be okay with not perfecting it. I know that sounds a little shady given that I study engineering, but the thing with school is it's testing your ability to remember things and work on them quickly, not on your ability to solve it in like perfectly in an exam. If I was given like a week and open resources, I could ace any exam. You give me 2 hours in a stressful environment, I'm going to do the best I can. And I'm just going to be okay with the outcome because, I gave it all. I went through each question and spent an appropriate amount of time, but not too much, right? I'm not pulling my hairs out over, the last 2 marks out of 10 on each question. I'm going to be okay with not having a 100% solution if it means I'm saving myself enough time to solve the other questions to an other adequate degree, right? In the Army, that's a pretty big one, is being okay with not having everything figured out, because not every plan, well, actually, no plan survives first contact. That's a common saying, is once shit hits the fan, your perfectly made plan means shit. Like, it doesn't mean anything anymore because situations changed and you got to make a new one on the fly. So don't bother wasting time that you could be using to actually execute the mission planning something that might not end up happening. The planning process in the military is to get a good understanding of what's going on and what needs to happen, not necessarily exactly how you're going to do it down to the very, microscopic detail. You need to know generally what you're going to do. So in a stressful situation, you still understand exactly what's going on. But something's going to happen. Something inevitably is going to happen where it changes the whole situation and you have to come up with a new plan and reroute your thoughts. So time management and being okay with not having a 100% solution are 2 pretty big skills that I've gotten.
It's a great response. And while we're not all going to get 2 weeks in advance when that dilemma comes, right? We're not going to be prepared. So it's doing the best that we can and accepting that outcome, doing the best that we can, right? The best. Because some people, they half-ass certain things, and being okay with imperfection, because no one's perfect. You got to accept that. That acceptance. Yeah, dude, I was devastated, man. Devastated.
That's horrible.
But luckily, her name was Callie, and she wanted to stay, or she was willing to stay. And even though it was like still really hot, there was no AC, and
oh man,
and it was like plus 20 outside. But yeah, engineering. What made you choose to study engineering at the University of Alberta, and what has your experience been like so far?
It's been a good experience so far. Working with others and learning how, I like group projects. I like learning how to work with others and how to, manage those projects, those big projects you got to do. What made me choose engineering at the U of A? Well, I didn't really want to move too far from home. So U of A is kind of the only option. Engineering, it's just one. If I had to choose any discipline to go into, that'd be the one. There's nothing generally that I'm super passionate about for engineering. I like designing things. I like having a say in how to solve problems.
Before you continue, can you orient the mic towards that red thing towards yourself? There we go.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So
is it still fine? You still heard me?
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Where was I? Oh yeah. So I enjoy problem solving. I like having a say in the solution, which is another reason why I decided to be an officer. Grunt work's fine and all, but I like having a say in the decision making.
Get that mind in there too, hey?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. My grandfather was an electrical engineer. Oh man, electrical engineering is hard. I had to take one for mechanical, and it's just intro to electrical engineering. That's one of the hardest courses I've taken so far. It was hard for me to wrap my mind around that. I don't know how he did it, but anyway, it's not field for me.
Eng is probably the hardest program, one of the hardest programs, especially for undergraduate degree, man. And I remember running into you, I think a couple of years back. It was my first year, and you were giving me advice on the study methods and how to just study earlier. And you had told me your experience in high school was just very very carefree, and you got by just studying the night before. And then when you had entered engineering your first year, it had catapulted you into this entire new world of studying.
It was eye-opening. It was I didn't have to study pretty much at all in high school. I got by just listening in class and doing my homework, and that was it. And I got good enough grades to not really need to study. It was not like that in engineering at all. I mean, you said engineering's one of the hardest degree. I mean, I certainly like to think so. It is hard. I'm sure like every other degree is immensely hard too. There's a reason why like it takes so much effort and so much time to work through everything. Like I wouldn't take away from any business majors or like computer science. Like computer science is hard too. But yeah, like anyways,
it's just like the dropout rate. Like it makes sense. Like a lot of people, like within the first year, it's like 50%, something crazy.
I think a lot of that is figuring out it's just not for you. Maybe
you don't hear that in the arts. You don't really hear that in the sciences.
Maybe
even in comp sci.
Maybe.
So it's really weeding out the people that cannot take that workload, because if you are going to be an engineer, you are expected to build bridges in those really, really big coliseums, and you're going to be just 90% correct and just kill 1,000 people within that building. Right?
My 80% correct solution doesn't apply here. That's when you're on the fly and you need a solution to implement right away. Yeah, of course, if you've got time, you're researching everything on. You need to be 110% sure that what you're making is going to work, and you've got factors of safety for that, right? You're not designing to the point. You're going, all right, I think this thing needs about it needs to handle this much stress. Or let's design it so it can handle double that or triple. I mean, whatever field you're in, it's kind of got a standard factor of safety. There's practices so that things don't fail.
And it's fascinating. I just thought of the idea that in the primary reserves, you are expected to find these solutions quickly, right? During wartime, which is mimicked in your training, right? When you need to be able to fire the guns properly, be able to man the cars, the vehicles, be able to delegate tasks into when things are chaotic, versus with engineering, when you're trying to craft, when you're building something, there's just years in advance even to make sure that even this house, right? Like there's going to be a family that lives in here for decades on end. It needs to make sure that you just don't step on the stair and then it could create a big hole and the kid just drops and dies, right? So it's that kind of like, I'm sure it's probably taught you how to think fast and think slow. There's a book about that.
Thinking slow. That's a big one. Yeah. Because you can get wrapped up in your own mind. The first time I took orders and was under assessment, I was thinking at like 1 billion miles an hour. Like you're thinking so fast, you're actually not thinking at all. There's just so many thoughts that nothing's actually happening. And I failed miserably in my first assessment on taking and executing orders. And the second time I went in, they teach you these breathing exercises, right? This box breathing. It's like 4 seconds in, hold it, 4 seconds out, hold it. Those,
yeah.
And I did that prior to orders, and I walked in, I just sat down and I listened, and I came up with a better method of taking orders. What I did was I listened, and when I knew he was getting to a part that I needed for my orders, I'd write that down. And, and then I would just have that. And instead of copying it over to my orders, these are my orders now. I'm giving these orders. I've written it down. It's not going to change. I'm just adding in my bits in between of what my commander's bits were. And it saved me so much time. Thinking slower instead of thinking fast, it helps you solve things a lot better because you can actually focus on what's going on instead of worrying about thinking, right?
There's a time and place. Like it would be completely inappropriate to think slow when you're driving. Like if you're trying to just like, especially when you're shoulder checking and you're like driving towards the lanes and you have to change the speed, you have to make sure to look at the mirrors, versus if you're thinking fast during studying, it's just like,
you're not retaining anything.
Yeah, you're not retaining anything.
Yeah.
You need to be able to get your mindset to adapt to the action that you're taking, right? Where it's not appropriate to fall asleep behind the wheel.
Well, if you've got a self-driving Tesla, it might be.
Tesla. But but if you need to go to bed, your heart rate can't be going like 600 miles.
Fuck, yeah, no, like you gotta
600
yeah.
beats per minute. But yeah, that's remarkable that you're able to embody these. It's like would you say it's like a different Matthew in each of them? Like, do you have to? There's this idea with David Goggins where he goes, Goggins is the guy that like does the work. He's the guy that you call on when you need help, and then that's his like alter ego, right? Where he like when he wants to get things done, he calls on to that. Like, is that common in the reserves where it's just like you call on to this like different?
You definitely have
person?
to like just switch to a different mindset. It's I've done these virtual exercises on the computer where you have to think fast and slow at the same time. It's crazy to kind of like I know that probably doesn't make any sense saying that. But you've got your radio headset on, you know, you got your map and you're seeing things happen on this virtual battle system. And things are happening left and right, and it's happening quite quickly. And you've got people chatting on the radio, and you need to know what's going on the radio. You got like, this is your situational awareness. So you're hearing like, oh, you know, this is, you know, 1-1 contact at this grid. You know, you need, and then you need to know what grid you're at pretty much at all times. You don't need to know the exact grid, but like you need to know pretty much where you are. So you're hearing contact at that grid. You're going, great, I'm here. That's where the contact is. Do I need to worry about that? Am I going to get called up to deal with it? Like and then you start thinking about, all right, if I get called up to do this, how am I going to do it? And then you think of like all these different courses of action. And so it's thinking fast and slow at the same time, because you have to work through it really quickly because there's not much time to lose, but you have to think slow and thoroughly. So I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, when there's certain things that pop up that need your immediate attention, you need to be able to challenge or initiate an action towards solving that problem immediately. But then when there's a problem that comes up, takes hold, that needs addressing an hour later, that you know you could plan out right now as you're taking that action, you need to be able to divert your attention towards that while maintaining your attention towards the task at hand. You know what I mean? Like while you're fixing up that little bolt in your head, you're slowly planning on the hour that's going to take place when that thing is inevitably going to happen.
Yeah.
And I've learned that with planning the high school reunion, bro. Like sending in the invitations for 341 people, but also the liquor license, and also there's the checking up the fire ban, and also there's millions of things coming at me, and a lot of them I need a word back for a week. I need to make a phone call. I need to make sure my parents have the van or the card that I'm going to take. There's all these different time frames.
You needed a planning party is what you needed. Yeah.
And it's being able to manage, okay, where am I going to think fast, when I'm going to think slow?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. How am I going to tackle this thing? Like you kind of break things out of what am I going to do? You think slow about what I need to do, and then you think fast in actually doing them.
True.
So,
are there any specific areas or projects within engineering that you're particularly passionate about?
You know, that's a tough question. I looked at that beforehand and I was like, fuck, I tried thinking about it and I'm like, man, it's difficult. The whole getting to Mars thing with SpaceX is really cool. And that's one of the things I've been watching is the SpaceX launches. They're so cool.
Would you ever go to Mars?
I would. Oh, yeah. I totally would.
Really? Like, but you won't be able to come back to Earth anymore.
Yeah. Well, so what?
Really?
Yeah. Did the old explorers who found like North America, question that? No, fuck it. I'm going.
Geez. What about the family, the friends?
At this point, I don't really have a family. Like I've got, my parents, my brother. I got my friends. Sure. Maybe I can convince a few friends to come with me. Fuck it. Let's go. Let's go fucking colonize Mars.
I guess you'd be able to change everything. Hey, like your name will go down in history.
Oh yeah.
Legacy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But then there's a risk though, right? What if it doesn't go right? Like all that
so
fears.
So what? I mean, you can't think about things that don't go right. So what if you die in fucking space? What is it? What difference does it make? Like
I
you
respect
live
that.
60 years down here, raise a great family. That's fantastic. I mean, I've got nothing against that, and I want a family of my own someday. I want a little kid. I want to watch him grow up and teach him how to be a man
Teach him how to go to
or a
Mars.
woman. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just different. It's a different path of life. There's that's that dichotomy in me is I want to have a family and have a slow life, and I want to go to fucking Mars, you know. Like
Yeah. You ever watch Interstellar?
oh yeah. I
Yeah,
do
bro.
that. That's sick.
Man, I feel like that's
such
you
a
right
sad
now.
movie.
They're just so sad,
It's
man.
worse watching it
Yeah.
second or third time around because
Bro.
like you know what's happening. So like you see the books fall off and you're like, don't fucking go. Don't fucking go. Don't leave Murph. Fuck.
When I forget Matthew McConaughey's name in the movie, but yeah, when his role, the dad was looking at those videos as the kids were aging, and he was just like sobbing
Yeah.
uncontrollably. I was like, I was watching that when I was like still in high school, and I was like, I couldn't help but just
It's a life-changing
Yeah.
movie.
yeah, I just feel the immense sadness that the father looking at his own children growing up without him.
Yeah. Oh, and that scene where Murph comes up and it's like, "Hey, Dad, you once told me that you might come back and we'd be the same age. Well, I'm the same age you were when you left." That's a fucking kicker. That scene there,
Dude,
and
that
it's
might
like,
cry right
oh,
now. That's dude. Oh man, I'm gonna watch it later. That's
oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's a long movie though.
It's
It's
long,
like what's like
yeah.
3.5 hours or something like
Is
that.
it? Yeah, it's so worth it though. Every single second.
Yeah.
That's like, do you prioritize your family or do you prioritize your dreams and ambition? It's that like, where do you draw
I
the
mean,
line?
he did it for humanity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he did it. It was a greater cause. He sacrificed his family for humanity, right? So I mean, it's weighing that, right? It's like, do I live out the rest of my life, you know, fairly fine and let people struggle in the future, or do I sacrifice my comfortable life with my family and try and do something about it? And that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know if I'd really be sacrificing much going to Mars, like, you know, I don't, what the cause is I'd be doing that for, but you know, like it'd still be cool as hell. And I
It
mean,
would
like
be.
who knows what kind of scientific advancement stuff there'd be on Mars for us to use here on Earth, and maybe, you know, find the cure for cancer or something. I don't know, like some missing link for something. Who knows? I mean, I don't know, maybe NASA knows. I don't know though.
Yeah.
So,
Oh man, it's incredible. Just I love thinking about space and time and just even I can see why you gravitate towards engineering.
yeah, I mean, I love, so what I love within engineering is like fluid dynamics and aerodynamics. The way it just perplexes me how those things work. Taking my first computed fluid dynamics class, man, like so cool, so cool. You learned all the equations behind how they work and all the assumptions that you make for different scenarios and conditions, and it's like, I didn't know it's this complicated. Like you know, obviously it's complicated, but like, holy crap, like I and they're like, yeah, you might have to like program your own CFD to like solve problems. And I'm like, fucking what? Like, I thought you know, you just download CFD.com or whatever and punch it in and go, yeah, this is the shape I want to make. How does it work? And like, but no, it's cool. The way that airplanes work and ships work and submarines or whatever, you know, like so cool. So cool.
Yeah. I can definitely see why you are succeeding in that endeavor of just finishing your degree. And how many you got? One more year.
If things go according to plan, I got one more semester.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. But if not, then it's another sem. Like you're gonna be working for the rest of your life, right? What's one more sem? But definitely, dude, that's no easy feat. How do you think your experience in the primary reserves has influenced your approach to problem solving and teamwork in engineering?
Uh, finding the best in everyone, figuring out who is better at what. I find that I've ended up being the team lead in a lot of the engineering group projects just out of happenstance. Like it just happened. I never was like, all right, guys, I'm the team leader. Let's do this. You know, I'd always start out like, you know, we'd all agree on who's doing what task, and we'd all do our like own separate thing. But at the end of the day, someone's got to tie it all together And I've just kind of always ended up being the first one to kind of start asking people, all right, where are we with this? Where are we with that? And it's not that I'm trying to take control or anything. It's just I ended up in most of them being the team lead, and it's a lot of work. Like if fucking having to track everything and manage every piece and make sure they all fit together. It's hard because everyone's got a different way of thinking, right? So some people might have different ideas of how someone else is solving it, and maybe once they both solve it, their pieces don't fit together. So having to be that link and make sure that everyone knows kind of what's going on and managing the flow of the project, that's something that I learned from the reserves, and being able to be comfortable and confident leading people and giving them the confidence or the motivation they need to do like their part and want to do it. There's been some times where some people are just like, oh, like I really can't do this. I've got finals, and you just have to tell them straight up, like, we all got finals, man.
Everybody's got
I'm
lives.
sorry,
Man.
that sucks, but we all have finals.
And have you ever heard of the idea where the leaders that should be in power shouldn't be the ones who want it, right? They should be the ones who just like go about their day, and then they go about the world and they want to uplift others. They have empathy, authenticity, loyalty, and they have no desire. But actually, those types of people are the ones that should be, because they do not seek power, right? They just want to get other people together, and they want people to be uplifted and society be better. And so there's this like the people that are presidents, they're the ones that seek it, right? They want to change the world. They want
the career politicians.
Yeah. But it's I learned this in my philosophy class, and that makes sense. But then it's like, how do you even know, right? You don't truly.
Usually when you don't
know.
have a personal stake in things, you can make a better non-biased decision that's best for whatever you're going
like
about.
A lot of it's internal too. Like, how do you measure authenticity? How do you measure someone being truthful and honest? You can't. You just like go based on what other people say. You just go based, and everybody's got their own biases, right? And I'm sure in a smaller scale, though, like your group projects and engineering, you're the leader type. You just know it. Like,
someone has to be at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, when there's 10 people, there needs to be someone to take the charge, take the reins. And it needs to be someone who can rule with compassion and empathy and understanding that life will never be perfect. And there are outside forces that are out of our control. And to be able to be compassionate and understanding with those people when they do not comply or when expectations that come aren't met.
Yeah, when they don't live up to what they're meant to do.
Being all right with that, man.
Whatever.
Like, kudos to you for filling that role every single time.
I won't say I fill it every single time. Like, I'm perfectly happy letting someone else fill that role. It's just if time goes by and no one does, like, you gotta. But yeah, I've sat through a few group projects where I just plug away at my own work and someone else kind of, hey, where are you at with this? Oh, I'm when we're just good.
You need that little break sometimes, right? Like for me too, I just want to be able to, it's kind of that continuum where it's like, okay, do I want to be a leader all the time or like be in control? But like you there's times where you can be a leader or a follower, right? You need to be able to know your role, because if someone else may be better able to delegate certain tasks, or they just like, maybe they're at a situation in their life, well, they'd have that time because you may be caught up with the reserves. You may be having a family outing and you just don't have that time to be able to text everyone and be able to go, oh, hey, and the little things. And yeah, it's like being able finding comfort in not being on top all the time is one of the greatest lessons.
Yeah. And I think getting experience as a leader also makes you a better follower too. I think like knowing what it takes to be a leader and what they have to do as a follower, you can kind of make their lives a bit easier. I know this is what it takes and what they need from me. So if I am a little proactive and give them what they need before they ask for it, can kind of make their lives a bit easier.
What I've learned with, I'm also a leader type, and while
Oh, evidently, yeah.
I and now when my parents give me orders, or when there's like a negative thing that comes up or I do something, I'll treat it like the way I treat people that I manage, whether there be a delegating a task for this and that. I look them in the eye and I go, oh, what can I do to solve this? And I do it as soon as I can, as authentic as I can. And if I make a mistake, I apologize. It will never happen again. I'll write it down. And it seems to have made my relationships flourish, because they do not hold any grudge against me, because I do the thing that I say I'm going to do, and I do it as best that I can.
That's all you can do.
That's all you can do.
People make mistakes, and that happens. But I mean, if you own up to it and you're willing to work forward and be the solution, nobody will ever have a reason to have anything against you.
Yeah, bro. With biking, you've been biking recently?
I've gotten back into it recently. This summer I found a bit more free time. And yeah, I've saw it.
How, bro? You have like you got a girlfriend, you got engineering, your primary reserves.
Well, I'm not taking classes over the summer, and so I'm just working 9 to 4 with the reserves over the summer, Monday to Friday. But in the evenings, you still got time, and I'm not spending every single evening with my girlfriend, nor does she have the time to spend every single evening with me with her work, and she's got a family and like home life, and she's got chores to do and take care of her pet and all that, right? So I have free time on my own now, so I can kind of get back into it. Like, it's nice actually. A lot of my friends that I still talk to I made in biking with the Juventus Cycling Club in high school. So yeah, so getting back into it and seeing all of them again and being able to ride with them is really awesome. I'm nowhere near as fit on the bike as I used to be. So it's a real disappointing and humbling thing, but all you can do is train a little more and try to get a little more fit.
Yeah. When did you develop an interest in biking, and what role does it play in your life now?
Oh man. So I first started cycling because my parents wanted me to do something over the summer. I used to do downhill ski racing. And they were like, well, you need to do some summer training, keep your fitness up so that when you get back into it in the winter, you still have some strength to build from, and you're not starting over again. And cycling was pretty good because it's a very active leg sport. Skiing, you're constantly squatting left to right, left to right. You're pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling. Your legs get quite tired near the end, and biking is a pretty comparable sport for the legs. I mean, everything else is different, but yeah, so that was my summer training sport. I ended up liking it more than ski racing. So I resigned from ski racing and just do that for fun. And I joined cycling as like that became my full-time sport. And the great thing about cycling is you can do it year round. I mean, the winter sucks because you're indoors on a stationary trainer, but you can still do it. Whereas you can't really ski in the summer unless you like travel to South America or something.
Well, with those stationary bikes, bro, you could just I've seen that they have those big screens now on the treadmill. Then it like mimics the nature. It's not the real thing, but it is something.
There's this program called Zwift that I used to be a little into. It's like a virtual world where it reads your speed and off your wheel, and it'll actually put it in the program, and you can see how fast you're going, and you can like pass other people and all that. So it is really fun.
That's amazing. Technology is truly remarkable. Yeah. Can you share some of your most memorable biking experiences or challenges you faced while biking?
Yeah, I think one of the most memorable biking experiences came from the 2019 Tour de Bonus. Me and my buddies, the other juniors with Juventus Cycling Club, we kind of worked as a team for this race. So this race was this overall race was comprised of three different stages. So there was the road race, there was a hill climb stage, and then there was a criterium. The road race was about, I think it was 130-ish kilometers. Then the hill climb was I think it's 800 meters, but it was like a fucking steep hill. It was, I think, like a 15% grade at the steepest or something like that. It was steep. And then the criterium, I don't know exactly how long it was. It was just, it's around like a half hour ish. And you go around this like 1 kilometer circuit, a bunch of laps. And there's like some, they call it preem lap. They'll ring a bell. And then the next time you come around, you sprint for the line and you can win a prize. And then on the last lap, the first person wins. Obviously they'll ring the bell on the last lap and the first, and, you know, that's your finishing order. So the preems are like, you want to win. I got a gift card for a bar, even though I was like 17 for winning a preem in that criterium. Anyway,
Oh, yeah,
so
that's even psych, bro.
yeah, that race as a whole was a lot of fun. On the road race, I'm not a super endurance-y guy. I like I'm good for endurance and then a hard sprint at the end, but really, really long distance stuff, not me. I can hang in, but I won't do well. So on the road race, me and my friend Chris, we let out my buddy Ryan for the finish, and what we did was at the 1 kilometer to go mark in the 130 kilometer race, we kind of took the front of the pack and just broke away with him, and we let him out and sped everything up, and the pack was like blown up, super off the back, scattered, and I let out first and really just gave it as much as I could, and then I pulled off and I coasted to the line, and I watched Chris give her another hard go, and then he pulled off, and then Ryan went and took the win. And I was just super proud. I was like, I love seeing teamwork come together and just work. It's super awesome, and I was super happy with that. Then the next day on the hill climb, Chris ended up winning that, and that one was just pure strength. I mean, you can't really do teamwork so much for that.
You can't really, like, blocking off the wind. It's like you can't go fast enough to be able to get ahead on them and be able to save their strength. It's more just like more strength. They drink raw strength.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's Chris's strong suit there. So, I mean, he did perfectly. And for the criterium, they ended up leading me out for the end, and then I was able to sprint and win that one. So and there was actually a fantastic photo my dad took of me and Chris crossing the line like inches from each other, both with our hands up. Just
is that on Instagram?
Yeah, that I think I've seen Instagram. That. Yeah, I think
dude.
it's like one of the you have to scroll through a few. The cover photo is me like angled, I think like 45-ish degrees going around a corner in that crit. I love crits because they're super fast paced and just a lot of fun. And it's not so long that you're just dead at the end. Well, I mean, you are, but you're not halfway through the race hoping it was over like a road race. In the crit, it's just super fast. And you're like, oh, the adrenaline and seeing other people come around, coming up with a strategy. Lots of fun.
I have no experience with like actual biking competitions or anything, but when I do take my little cheap bike and I'm on the sidewalk and I'm going like 20 kilometers per hour. So like I'm pretty slow. Like I just feel so in control. Hey, when you're there, like driving a car, sure. But like when you're actually giving that energy,
oh yeah,
yourself, like you are the one operating this vehicle. Is it a vehicle?
I mean, if you're fast.
Yeah. Certainly I've seen some bikers and they are just as fast as cars,
they can get fast.
How do you incorporate biking into your routine? And what advice would you give to someone looking to start biking as a hobby or means of transportation?
Into my routine. I mean, I work it into my workout schedule. So, I mean, it's just like, I won't do so much. I won't focus so much on cardio if I'm focusing more on biking. Like
just bike to the gym.
I got that covered. Yeah, I'll bike to the gym. Yeah. Sometimes I'll run to the gym if I'm really feeling like gassing myself that day.
If you want to go for a run, man, let's go.
You're fast.
I'm surely slow. I'm an endurance guy. Okay. I'm an endurance guy. Trust me. Yeah.
Man, I've seen your run stats. Oh hell no. Oh hell no. I go for like a 5K run like at a 7-minute per kilometer pace, and I'm like gassed.
I just had
it's horrible.
Little running club today, but like I've asked, usually the people that show up, they're like people that we know. And then like last night, like too hungover to so
I'd come. Yeah, why not?
One of these days on a Sunday, 1 p.m.
Yeah. What, from Festival Place?
Festival Place. Yeah. I was thinking maybe switching it to like 10 a.m. though, because like it seems like people are just busy after lunch on Sundays.
Yeah, and 10's not early by any means. I mean, 10's a reasonable time to ask people to show up.
But yeah, bro, what has biking taught you?
Hmm. Well, it's definitely fostered how to work as a team. There's some components in cycling where you can work as a team, and others where it's not allowed. So there's a type of cycling called track cycling, and you go around like a velodrome. So it's a banked track, and you go in like circles. And that one teaches you a lot of tactics and how to manage your effort so that you aren't doing all the work and are able to still compete at the end. Um, a lot of it is just being a complete dick to everyone else. Like honestly, like people will be like going hard. Like drafting's a huge thing in cycling. So you get behind someone and they break the air in front of you, and you get a lot less wind resistance, and you save like over 50% of the energy it takes to maintain that speed. So drafting's a huge thing. So when someone's going hard and they pull off on the bank for you to take a turn, and then you immediately pull off and come right behind them, they're all pissed at you for doing that, and they're going to come after you for it. But I mean, if you maintain your energy well and you position yourself well for the sprint at the end, I mean, who's going to win? The guy who did all the work or the guy who sat behind waiting?
Yeah.
So,
And when during these bike races, it's like multiple teams. And do you ever are there rules against like sabotaging other bikers? Because it's like it's pretty easy just to like turn into someone, elbow
yeah.
them or something.
Yeah, you don't want to crash people out. That's not only because it's illegal in the race, but it's because they'll come after you for it later. There was actually an instance, I'm not going to name names, but one of my teammates was on the national level cycling, and someone just grabbed his front brake and squeezed it, and the guy went over his handlebars and crashed.
Oh, what
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Some people are crazy.
dude?
Yeah.
How do you? Because it's your word against his word. That he could just say,
Well,
"I didn't do anything."
People saw it. The guy got fined and reprimanded.
People saw
Yeah.
it. Okay, but there's no evidence, or I guess it's circumstantial.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
like
it's
caught red-handed.
Yeah,
and
there's like witnesses, right?
witnesses. Okay.
I mean, I'm not like legally illegal. Like the law is not
Mhm.
going to get you in trouble unless you like actually like kill the guy
but
or
like
something.
there's
But
social repercussions.
but
Like if you go to it,
it's within like the UCI, like the oh man, Union de Cyclisme International. I think it's a French name, but it's the governing body for officiating bike races. They'll fine you, and they could even take your racing license away for cycling. So
and then there are like social repercussions. Like for the next race, let's say you do get reprimanded, get your consequences, and then you finally get back. People don't want to associate with you, and then when you're in that race, like you're gonna get alienated, and it's like the consequences of that is just so heavy. Like personally for me, like I don't want to show up to an event and everybody just has this perceived idea. I could be the best person. I made a lapse of judgment and that's who I am. And I guess if you're the type of person to squeeze someone's handle brakes, probably shouldn't be near that guy. You know, like nobody.
And I mean, you can do all sorts of things that are still legal. Like you can box someone in. So like, let's say you're on the track and you're going around the bank, and
I see.
There's a guy here and a guy drafting him, and you come up right here. Well, this guy can't go anywhere now because like unless he like forces you up, which you can do. You just have to be subtle and careful about it. You don't want to crash the guy out. You just want to nudge him a bit, which you can do. It takes a bit of skill to get comfortable with it. But
are you gonna be able to go like if this guy doesn't move, we're both gonna crash. It's like
if you're both, you got to know your opponents and whether they can handle their bike really well or not. Bike handling skill it's not something that everyone's got in bike racing, but depending on what the level you're at, you can kind of know who you're racing with and what their skill is. So if you're kind of bumping into some people, you should know whether they can handle it or not. There's tons of pushing and shoving at track nationals when I was in juniors, and I crashed once, but that was my own fault actually. I won't get into that. But yeah, like people are nudging you all the time, and you just roll with it. I mean,
is there a lot of shit talk?
Oh yeah, but I mean, after the race is done, you're all like you gotta learn how to respect your opponents off the track and after the race, because otherwise what are you doing? You're not having fun. You're not, why are you in the sport? Are you there only to win? Like I I liked winning. I was not a winner in that sport. I mean, I did like mid pack generally, and sometimes I'd win, depending on the circumstance and how my tactics were. But I was by no means a fantastic cyclist. But I still had fun because I enjoyed it and I enjoyed the people, right? I mean, you might get mad at someone in a race for pulling a move, but you're like, if I were in their shoes, I probably would have done the same thing, right? So yeah, you get screwed over, but it's all part of the sport. So long as they're not, actually doing something like grabbing your front brake. I mean,
Yeah, bro. Biking is one of those things where it's just so healthy for you, and like the community around it too seems just very, very into it. Like I see people usually that take that endeavor to follow that route and be a biker, like are on the roads, man, and they risk like getting hit by cars, right? And it's just
yeah.
like usually those types of people, they're the ones that join the competitions, right? And do the
well, there's no way to train on the road without training on the road. You don't know how to road race and maintain that effort on roads without doing it on the road. And I think that's something that a lot of drivers get upset with and don't understand.
A lot of drivers, like
we stay on the shoulder, like past the white line. We're not in the lane at all. You can just drive by us. You don't have to get upset or hit us or anything. Like, fuck, it's crazy. And it's like, okay, so what? Maybe you might have to slow down when another car's coming and then, move over and pass. Honestly, how much time are you losing? 10 seconds, maybe?
At most, like couple minutes.
A lot of the frustration comes from, they're in the way, they're taking up the road and I'm losing time. It's like, if the 10 seconds is the time that makes you like late to something, maybe you weren't planning well enough, right? Maybe you were already late. Like,
you're right.
So,
and casting blame on this biker is so...
Yeah, this person's on the road trying to improve their physical fitness, either for personal reasons or maybe they're in competition, and you're getting upset because they are doing something for themselves and they're perfectly legal on the side of the road.
And they're getting after it.
Yeah.
Like you go after it. I think the types of people that do get mad, they're the ones that don't have discipline. They're the ones that like you're usually casting blame when things go wrong. They're so quick to blame that other person, that biker.
Yeah. There's always a scapegoat.
Like, I'm 5 minutes late and it's just this biker, right? Like I just behind him or her and just, casting blame. It's like, no, just leave earlier, bro.
Yeah.
Like, sir. But yeah, man. Are there any last words for the listeners, viewers who want to get into primary reserves?
Do it. Fucking do it. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different like occupations you can choose from. There's infantry, there's armored, which is what I'm in. We deal with armored fighting vehicles. It's a whole different game. There's engineers. There's like you can do artillery, logistics. There's some engineering trades. You can do like electrical, mechanical engineering. You can do like a signals, like work with communications. There's so many different options, depending on what you're interested in. And, you can use it to spice up your life a bit and gain some new experiences. You can build off of what your civilian job is. A lot of people do, but a lot of people like a different experience and a change of scenery. So like the doctor who's working in the armored reserves doesn't really match up, but they want to change the scenery and to experience different things. So you can use it for whatever you like. And it's just a fantastic place to work and people to work with. Yeah, that's if I had to sum it up in like, a short amount of time, that'd be how I'd do it.
Yeah, bro. Thank you so much for coming on the Long-Term Podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
I've done an amazing work. We're still so young, and yet you're in the primary reserves, you're finishing up your degree, and you have accomplished a lot of biking endeavors, and you have all these cool stories, and you've taken up biking again, and you want to go to Mars. There's all these things, and I'm truly grateful for you, man.
Oh, thanks for flattering me. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. And as always, to everyone listening, watching, there is a place for you in this chaotic world. Never lose hope. Keep your faith and keep it long term. Peace.
Amen.